The Dakar Rally returned to Saudi Arabia for its 7th consecutive year in January 2026, covering nearly 8,000 kilometers from the Red Sea port of Yanbu through some of the most demanding terrain the rally has seen. Week 1 just wrapped up and Daniel Sanders looked untouchable with 5 stage wins, leading from the front. Then stage 6 happened. A massive 6-minute penalty just turned this entire race upside down. But before we get into what went wrong, let's talk about what makes this race so brutal in the first place. It started in 1978 as a race from Paris to Dakar, crossing Europe and Africa through some of the most dangerous terrain on Earth. Riders died, bikes broke. Half the field never made it to the finish. It was chaos, but it became legendary. Security issues in Africa forced the rally to move to South America in 2009, where it stayed for a decade. Then, in 2020, it moved to Saudi Arabia for good. Better logistics, more consistent terrain, and the kind of vast desert that lets organizers build stages over 900 kilometers long. This year's edition covers 8,000 kilometers total, with nearly 5,000 of those being timed special stages. 13 stages plus a prologue. 1 rest day in Riyadh after stage 6. It's still the most demanding off-road endurance race in the world, and the bikes category is where it gets truly brutal. In the bike category, you're completely alone. No co-driver reading pace notes, no team car following behind with spare parts. You navigate with a road book mounted on your handlebars and a compass strapped to your wrist. GPS only gives you waypoints to validate, not directions. Miss one, and you're penalized or worse, completely lost in the desert. The bikes are 450cc enduro machines pushing through sand dunes, 3 stories tall, rock fields that shred tires, and heat that regularly hits 40 degrees Celsius. When something breaks, you fix it yourself or you're done. The attrition rate in bikes is the highest of any category. About half the field makes it to the finish line on a good year. Crashes happen constantly because you're riding in dust clouds from the bikes ahead, hitting rocks you can't see until it's too late. You're out there for 10 to 12 hours a day with nothing but what you can carry on the bike. It's endurance racing at its most raw. Daniel Sanders came into 2026 as the defending champion after absolutely dominating Dakar 2025. He led from the opening prologue all the way to the finish line in a wire-to-wire performance that hadn't been seen in years. He won by 8 minutes and 50 seconds over Honda's Tosha Shirena, taking 5 stage victories along the way. It was a statement. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing with their 450 rally machine took 9 stage wins total compared to Honda's 3. But Honda still managed a double podium with Shirena in second and Adrian Van Beveren finishing third at 14 minutes and 46 seconds back. The rivalry was set. KTM had speed and Sanders had momentum. Honda had depth with multiple fast riders who could pressure from different angles. Coming into 2026, everyone knew this was going to be a war between these two manufacturers, and Week 1 proved it. Before we talk about what Sanders did wrong, we need to talk about what he was doing right. Riding with KTM 450 Rally Factory. This isn't just another rally bike. This is the most successful competition motorcycle in Dakar history. KTM has 20 overall wins in the bike category. 18 of those were consecutive from 2001 through 2019. Mark Coma won 5 times on this platform, Cyril Despres won 5 times, Toby Price won twice. When the rally moved to Saudi Arabia in 2020, Honda grabbed a couple wins with Ricky Brabec, but then Sanders brought KTM back to the top in 2025, riding this exact machine. So what makes it so dominant? It's a 450cc single-cylinder enduro bike pushing around 63 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much until you realize it only weighs about 320 pounds with fuel. The power-to-weight ratio is insane for a machine that has to survive 2 weeks of dunes, rocks, and heat. KTM's been refining this platform for over 2 decades. The WP Explore Pro suspension is specifically tuned for high-speed dune crossings where your landing jumps blind and need the bike to absorb impacts without throwing you over the bars. The chassis geometry is set up for stability at speed because in the open desert sections, you're not cruising at 80 kilometers per hour. You're pushing 130, 140, trying to make up time on guys behind you. The fuel capacity is massive, 32 liters, which matters when stages run over 300 kilometers and there's no gas station in the sand. Sanders rode this bike to his 2025 championship. Wire-to-wire dominance, 5 stage wins, 8 minutes and 50 seconds ahead at the finish. The bike never let him down. Not once. He trusted it completely and it delivered. Coming into 2026, he's on the same platform with minor updates based on what they learned last year. Same engine, same suspension, same fuel tank geometry. The machine that had already won him one Dakar title and was about to carry him through another. But defending a championship is a completely different kind of pressure than winning your first. Sanders finished second in 2023, close but not close enough. The 2025 edition was his chance to stop being the guy who almost won and become the guy who did. He took the lead in the prologue and never gave it back. Not for one stage. Wire to wire from start to finish, the kind of dominant performance that hadn't been seen in years. 5 stage victories along the way. When other riders were managing their pace to survive, Sanders was attacking. When the marathon stages came and everyone else was limping on shredded tires, he kept pushing. The kind of riding that makes people wonder if you're insane or just that much faster than everyone else. By the time he crossed the finish line in Yanbu, he'd won by 8 minutes and 50 seconds over Honda's Tosha Shiraina. In a 2-week race covering thousands of kilometers, 8 minutes is a statement. It's not luck. It's not a fluke. It's complete control. KTM as a manufacturer took 9 stage wins that year compared to Honda's 3. The orange wall looked unbreakable again. But here's the thing. Shiraina finished second. Adrian Van Beveren finished third for Honda at 14 minutes and 46 seconds back. Honda put 2 riders on the podium while Sanders was up there alone for KTM. That double podium was a warning shot. KTM had the fastest rider, but Honda had depth. Multiple guys who could win stages, apply pressure from different angles, and capitalize on mistakes. The rivalry was set. Sanders had the trophy and the momentum. Honda had the numbers and a score to settle. And when the 2026 route was announced with more technical sections, longer marathons, and navigation traps designed to punish anyone riding on instinct instead of precision, everyone knew this wasn't going to be a repeat. Honda wasn't showing up to finish second again. The 2026 route brought changes that played right into Honda's hands. 2 marathon refuge stages, where riders would be completely isolated in stripped-down bivouacs for 2 full days with 0 mechanical support. No team mechanics, no spare parts trucks, just you, your tools, and whatever help other riders were willing to offer. If something broke, you fixed it yourself, or you were done. The organizers also added mid-stage service points on select stages where you could change tires and make quick repairs, but only at specific locations they chose. The route itself avoided the empty quarter and pushed into new western and southern terrain nobody had run before. Al-Ula's technical canyons with blackstone surfaces that chew through tires, Ha-Il's dune fields where navigation becomes a guessing game, rocky sections designed to punish anyone riding too fast without reading the terrain. Honda came into this with 4 legitimate weapons. Ricky Brabec, the 2020 champion who knew how to win this thing. Tosha Shiraina, fresh off that second-place finish and hungry to go one better. Skylar Howes, an endurance specialist who'd proven he could finish on the podium. And Adrian Van Beveren, a veteran who'd been close multiple times and knew the game inside out. 4 riders who could all win stages and all finish in the top 10 if things went right. That's the kind of depth that lets you play chess while everyone else is playing checkers. One guy has a bad day, 3 others pick up the slack. KTM had Sanders and Luciano Benavides, who just won the W2 RC Championship. 2 incredibly fast riders, but only 2. If Sanders faltered, there was no safety net. The psychological pressure was different too. Sanders was defending. He had the #1 plate on his bike, the target on his back, and the weight of expectations from everyone watching. Honda's riders were hunting. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And when you're the hunter, you can take risks the leader can't afford. Week 1 was about to show exactly what that difference meant. The rally opened with a short prologue on January 3rd, and nobody expected Edgar Canet to win it. 20 years old, a rookie in the main class after winning Rally 2 the year before. He beat Sanders by 3 seconds and became the youngest 2-wheel stage winner in Dakar history. Then he won Stage 1 the next day while everyone was still trying to figure out if it was a fluke. It wasn't. The kid was fast, and he had the navigation dialed in. But Sanders wasn't worried. He took Stage 2 and grabbed the overall lead, and from that point forward, it was his race to lose. The marathon stages on days 4 and 5 were supposed to level the playing field. No team support, riders stuck in a stripped-down bivouac fixing their own bikes with whatever tools they'd carried. Tires were shredded, rims were bent. Edgar Canet, the kid who'd shocked everyone with those early wins, lost hours trying to repair a destroyed moose and dropped completely out of contention. Other riders were limping through on rubber held together by hope and duct tape. Sanders? He managed his pace, protected his equipment, and kept winning. Luciano Benavides took stage 5 for KTM despite crashing and twisting his knee early in the day. That put 2 KTM riders in the top 3 overall. Honda was applying pressure with Ricky Brabec and Tosha Shirina staying close, but Sanders had 5 stage wins by the time Week 1 hit its final day. Stage 6, Hail to Riyadh, 920 kilometers, the longest single stage in the Saudi Dakar era. 326 kilometers of timed special through dunes that looked like something out of a different planet. Riders left the bivouac at 4 in the morning knowing this was the stage that would define the week. Sanders started third on the road, and within 50 kilometers, he'd caught and passed everyone in front of him. He was riding solo. No tracks to follow, no one close behind. Just open desert and a bike that was responding to every input like it was hardwired to his brain. By the time he crossed the finish line, his raw time was 3 hours, 36 minutes, and 50 seconds. Ricky Brabec, who'd been riding clean all day, finished at 3 hours, 41 minutes, and 33 seconds. Sanders was 4 minutes and 43 seconds faster. It was the kind of performance that ends championship fights before they even start. Except it didn't. Because at kilometer 5 of that stage, Daniel Sanders made a mistake that would flip the entire rally upside down.
I think I just controlled it really well and focused on myself in the racing and just pushed when I knew I could and tried to make up time as much as possible.
Kilometer 5 of the special stage. Sanders was pulling away from the field, navigation dialed in, the KTM responding to every input. Then he hit the restricted zone. 50 kilometers per hour speed limit, enforced by GPS tracking that monitors every bike automatically. These zones appear throughout Dakar stages, usually near villages or areas where organizers need to slow riders down for safety. There's no appeal process. The system clocks your speed, calculates the violation, and adds penalty time after you finish. Sanders was clocked at 98 kilometers per hour, nearly double the limit. The penalty came through after the stage. 6 minutes added to his official time. His raw riding time of 3 hours, 36 minutes, 50 seconds had put him 4 minutes and 43 seconds ahead of Ricky Brabec. With the penalty, his official time became 3 hours, 42 minutes, and 50 seconds. Sanders later said it was a silly mistake that he picked up early in the stage. An emotional roller coaster all day, he called it. The fastest rider in the desert had just lost a stage win he'd earned by riding faster than anyone else. The official Stage 6 results put Ricky Brabec in first place at 3 hours, 41 minutes, and 33 seconds. His 12th career Dakar stage win. Tosha Shirina finished second, 1 minute 14 seconds back. Sanders dropped to third, 1 minute 17 seconds behind Brabec on a stage he dominated. Brabec said afterward it was cool to win the stage, that they'd left the bivouac at 4 in the morning and he was tired. He didn't even know he'd won until the results came through. Before Stage 6, Daniel Sanders led the rally by over 2 minutes. After the penalty, that gap was 45 seconds. 45 seconds over Ricky Brabec with 6 more stages ahead. In a race covering nearly 8,000 kilometers over 2 weeks, 45 seconds is 1 navigation mistake, 1 crash, 1 more speed penalty. The comfortable lead that lets you ride smart and manage equipment was gone. Sanders went from controlling the rally to defending a thread. The route ahead wasn't designed for conservative riding. Stage 7 pushed toward Wadi ad-Dawasir with the second marathon starting. Stage 8 covered 481 kilometers of timed special, the longest of the entire rally. Stages 9 and 10 formed another marathon refuge with riders isolated and no mechanical support. Stage 11 was already being called the rally-defining leg with complex navigation traps. Then the final push to Yanbu with stages 12 and 13, where anything could still flip the result. 45 seconds to defend through all of that. This became Red Bull KTM factory racing versus Monster Energy Honda HRC with everything on the line. KTM had 20 Dakar wins in the bike category, 18 of them consecutive, from 2001 through 2019. The legacy, the expectation that when a KTM rider shows up with the number 1 plate, they win. Sanders had delivered in 2025. Now he was defending instead of dominating. Honda's depth advantage mattered now. 4 riders capable of winning stages and finishing in the top 10. Brabec as the primary weapon. Sharina applying constant pressure. Skylar Howes and Adrian Van Beveren ready to capitalize on mistakes. KTM had Sanders and Luciano Benavides, 2 riders. If Sanders faltered, there was no backup plan. Honda could rotate pressure from multiple angles while KTM had to ride perfect from the front. Week 2 would punish defensive riding. Long marathons where mistakes compound, navigation sections that require precision, rocky terrain that destroys bikes if you're not reading it correctly. Sanders couldn't protect his lead by slowing down. He had to keep attacking while avoiding the mistakes that cost him 6 minutes at kilometer 5. Sanders went into stage 6 knowing he was faster than everyone else. He came out knowing that speed doesn't matter if you can't stay clean. Defending a 45-second lead meant managing speed zones, navigating perfectly, and watching every move Brabec made. One strong stage from the American and the overall lead flips completely. Week 2 would decide if that mistake at kilometer 5 defined his entire Dakar. The overall standings after stage 6 put Daniel Sanders at the top with a total time of 24 hours 41 minutes. Ricky Brabec sat 45 seconds behind in second place. Luciano Benavides held third for KTM at 10 minutes 15 seconds back from the lead. Tosha Sharina was fourth at 11 minutes 56 seconds, still carrying that earlier 10-minute penalty from the bivouac violation, but close enough to matter if the leaders hit trouble. Nacho Cornejo rounded out the top 5 for Hero at 29 minutes 50 seconds back. Honda's depth showed in the standings, 4 riders in the top 7. Brabec in second, Sharina in fourth, Skylar Howes in 6th at 32 minutes 3 seconds, and Adrian Van Beveren in 7th at 56 minutes 35 seconds. All 4 capable of winning stages and all 4 positioned to capitalize on mistakes from the front. KTM had Sanders leading and Benavides in third, but the gap between second and third was nearly 10 minutes. If Sanders faltered, Benavides couldn't immediately challenge Brabec for the lead. Honda could rotate pressure, while KTM had to defend from the front with limited backup. The chasing pack included Bradley Cox in 8th for Sherco at 1 hour, 25 minutes, 28 seconds back. Preston Campbell, leading the Rally 2 class, sat 9th overall at 1 hour, 31 minutes, 4 seconds. Ross Branch rounded out the top 10 for Hero at 1 hour, 36 minutes, 10 seconds, still dealing with the effects of his earlier 6-minute penalty on stage 1. The field had spread out significantly. The battle for the overall win was now isolated to the top 4 or 5 riders while everyone else was racing for position in their respective classes. Week 2 would start with stage 7, covering 876 kilometers total, with 462 kilometers of timed special heading toward Wadi Ad Dawasir. More dune fields. Stage 8 would be the longest timed section of the entire rally at 481 kilometers. Then the second marathon refuge on stages 9 and 10, where riders would be isolated again with separate routes for bikes and cars, focusing purely on navigation without support. Stage 11, from Bisha to Al Hanakia, was already being described as the rally-defining leg, with complex canyons and countless intersections designed to trap anyone relying on instinct instead of precise roadbook reading. The question heading into Week 2 was simple. Could Sanders manage a 45-second lead through 6 more stages without making another mistake? Or would Honda's numbers advantage and the technical nature of the remaining route allow Brabec to take the overall lead? The Dakar Rally had delivered exactly what it always does. 2 weeks of racing condensed into a final week where nothing is decided until the finish line in Yanbu. 45 seconds, 6 stages. Daniel Sanders has the speed and the proven machine. Ricky Brabec has the depth and a team that can attack from multiple angles. Week 2 decides if one mistake at kilometer 5 costs Sanders a championship or if he rides clean enough to hold on. Drop a comment with your prediction. Does Sanders defend the lead or does Brabec take it? I'll be watching the results and breaking down Week 2 when it wraps. Subscribe so you don't miss it.